The Varelian high chamber fell into stunned silence. Elias Rain stood alone, unarmed, smiling lazily beneath the thousand-eyed gaze of the Galactic Empire's elite. Archon Verlin sneered. You will kneel, human! Earth will send its tribute, or your species will be erased. Elias adjusted his cufflinks, glanced at his wrist pad, then met Verlin's gaze with unnerving calm. Check your outer sensors. A pause. Then the chamber lights flickered, interference. One by one, 10 cloaked human dreadnoughts uncloaked above Cerelian Prime. Elias tilted his head. We don't do tribute. We do payback. The chamber reeked of perfume and power. Elias Rain stepped forward, his boots quiet against the crystalline floor. 100 alien dignitaries stared down from their elevated perches, eyes unblinking, scales glinting, carapaces twitching in smug anticipation. At the center, on a throne of coiled silver and bioluminescent bone, sat Archon Executor Verlin Case. Tall, violet-skinned, his elongated skull crowned with ceremonial circuitry that pulsed in rhythm with his breath. You will kneel, Verlin said, voice smooth, poisonous. Earth has enjoyed the luxury of neutrality long enough. Now the tribute is due. Elias smiled, slow and genuine. You know, I almost brought a fruit basket. A low hiss swept through the assembly. Verlin didn't blink. You are here to surrender your world's resources and personnel, not deliver comedy. Right. Resources. You mean lithium, neutronium, and, what was it, 100,000 human workers. Servants, Verlin corrected. Ah. Slaves. Cute euphemism. One of the lesser envoys, a kite-and-plated diplomat from the Vortari Syndicate, clicked its mandibles. Humans were warned. Non-compliance is treason against the Galactic Order. Elias turned slightly, addressing no one in particular. You know what I've always found fascinating about this order of yours? It demands obedience, offers no protection, and punishes defiance with extinction. Sounds less like governance and more like a protection racket. Verlin rose. He was tall, regal, and utterly convinced of his authority. You speak as if you have a choice. Elias kept his tone casual, amused. Oh, I do. I'm just not sure you'll like it. Earth has no standing fleet. Your colonies are scattered. Your defense satellites are obsolete by 2 centuries, Verlin said, eyes narrowing. Your kind barters water for fusion fuel. You live by our generosity. Generosity, Elias echoed. He clasped his hands behind his back, studying the ornate symbols carved into the chamber's walls. That what you call strip mining a species, sterilizing their oceans, then setting up a trade outpost on the ashes? You test my patience. And you insult mine. Silence. For a moment, the entire room seemed to hold its breath. Elias exhaled through his nose, letting the moment stretch. You summoned me here to make Earth grovel. You expected tears. Fear. Maybe some ceremonial apology. Verlin's lip curled. You brought nothing. Not even a token of tribute. Elias raised a brow. Did you check your outer sensor grid? That drew a flicker of confusion. Just a second. Barely perceptible. Then buried again under contempt. Verlin straightened. Do not play games, Terran. I never do, Elias replied. Not in person. The Archon gestured sharply. A subordinate moved to the side wall, tapping crystalline runes. A projection bloomed above the chamber, real-time orbital telemetry. Gasps erupted. Across the chamber, diplomats leaned forward. Others went rigid. 10 signatures. 10 massive vessels, cold and silent, had just uncloaked in high orbit. Matte black, angular, radiating nothing but mass. The closest bore the unmistakable silhouette of a dreadnought, twice the size of any known human craft, weapons bays yawning like open wounds. Elias didn't look at the image. He watched the Archon. Verlin stared up, lips parting, color draining slightly from his violet cheeks. This is a bluff. Elias cracked his neck. If I wanted to bluff, I'd have brought 20. Explain this treachery. I'm not here to explain. Elias finally turned his gaze to the projection. That's your problem. You think we owe you answers? Murmurs turned into shouts. A Zarnian ambassador screamed in a high-pitched frequency that cracked a light fixture. Others demanded immediate action. Verlin shouted above them. This violates every clause of the accord. There is no accord, Elias said, quiet and final. Not with tyrants. Not with slavers. Not with thieves who wrap murder in ceremony. You stand here in defiance of empire. No, Elias's voice sharpened. I stand here in defiance of extinction. You just didn't recognize it. Verlin's control slipped for the first time. His hands twitched. What is the meaning of this force? You want a tribute, Elias said. You'll get it. In fire. In glass. In gravity cores through your palace walls. A pause. Then he tapped the side of his collar. The projection shifted. A second image emerged, footage from deep space. An Empire patrol fleet exploding in real time, ships folding into themselves as if yanked into singularities. The room went dead silent. Verlin watched, trembling. You attacked an Empire fleet. I reclaimed human prisoners from one of your labor moons. Didn't think anyone would miss the escort. Spoiler alert, they didn't. You dare. I dared the moment you enslaved our kin. We just spent the last 50 years pretending to be weak. Quietly. Patiently. While you watched, we learned your comm protocols, dissected your weapons, and mapped your fleets. The Archon staggered back, momentarily speechless. Elias stepped toward him, voice low. We studied you. We lied to you. We fed you fake data while we built our own war machines in shadows you didn't even know we controlled. This is madness. No. This is human diplomacy. The chamber erupted. Security drones activated, surrounding Elias, but he didn't flinch. He smiled. Just enough to show teeth. By the way, you may want to evacuate this planet in the next 20 minutes. You wouldn't dare, Verlin whispered. Elias walked to the exit, pausing just long enough to turn his head. We don't do tribute, Archon. Then he left. The doors closed behind him. 10 ships loomed in the sky above. The sky above Cerulean Prime turned black at noon. Archon Verlin stood rigid, pupils dilated as the transmission ended. The chamber had cleared in chaos. Panicked diplomats vanishing into teleportation spirals, assistants screaming into comlinks, guards scrambling for weapons they no longer trusted to matter. The projection still floated above him, displaying 10 unblinking symbols in high orbit. No calls were answered. No pings returned. The ships hovered in perfect silence. He activated the war console. Status on the orbital perimeter? He barked. A technician's voice trembled. No activity from the vessels. They're just watching. Verlin's jaw clenched. No ship just watches. Find their command signature. They're not broadcasting anything. They're not even emitting heat signatures. It's as if... Enough. He switched frequencies. Command Fleet 7. Ready your barrage sequence. Prepare plasma saturation of orbital space. A pause. Sir? Came the voice of Fleet Captain Relvin, cautious. These ships outmass ours. We estimate 4-1. And they're holding formation like they want us to fire first. Verlin hissed. Then fire. Above the planet, 12 Verilian warships adjusted their trajectory. Their cannons pulsed with energy. Targeting arrays flared to life. The Black Fleet didn't move. Relvin gave the order. 10 seconds later, the command link went dead. Not static. Not scrambled. Dead. On the main projection, the entire Verilian fleet collapsed inward, instantaneous. No explosions. No wreckage. Just warships pulled through some invisible wound in space. Then gone. Verlin stared in disbelief. What did they? The technician's voice was a whisper. Gravity core weaponry. They created an artificial singularity. It consumed them. He turned slowly, his throat tight. That's impossible. That tech is theoretical. Not to them. Another display lit up. A message was being broadcast system-wide on all known frequencies. The technician tried to block it. He couldn't. It was Elias. His voice was calm, measured. "Let this be our only message. Earth bows to no throne. You demanded tribute. You received demonstration. If provoked again, we will not strike defensively. We will strike definitively." The feed cut. Verlin was breathing hard now, something he hadn't done in decades. "Send word to the Eastern Perimeter Lords. Mobilize Empire Prime Fleet. I want all available warships ready to intercept any Terran movement. They may already be inside our systems," the technician said, eyes wide. "Sir, what if they'd been listening the whole time?" Verlin rounded on him. "You think they can infiltrate our secured channels?" The technician didn't answer. Just stared at the screen. Verlin followed his gaze. One by one, secure channels were flickering red, breached. He turned back to the console. "Get me the High Strategist. I need authorization for internal lockdown. If Earth wants war, we will bury them." The room dimmed slightly. Then brightened again. A subtle shift. "Sir?" a new voice said, low, almost reverent. "New visual. Slave colony Y Delta 9 has gone dark." Verlin's stomach sank. "That's impossible. That colony is buried beneath a crust of uranium rock. It's shielded. Hardened. The shields are gone. The command center melted. Internal footage shows humans. Armed. Coordinated. They executed the overseers and vanished." "Vanished?" "No trace of ships entering or leaving." A new icon appeared on the screen. A skull, etched in Earth's standard characters. Elias's voice followed, uninvited. "Delta 9 was a test. Just like your patients." The transmission ended. Verlin snapped. "I want retaliation. Now!" "Retaliation against what, sir?" Relvin's second-in-command came through a new channel. "Every time we locate their assets, they vanish. They're using stealth metrics that don't register on gravitational scans." "You're telling me we're blind?" "I'm telling you they've been preparing this longer than we've been watching." Verlin shut down the feeds, one after the other, drowning in static and shame. He looked at the globe hovering beside his seat. Earth, once a pale afterthought on star maps, now glowing with blood-red markers. Not warning signs. Beacons. He whispered, more to himself than anyone. "What have we done?" No one answered. In the command tunnels beneath the court, a separate system ran silently. A Varelian intelligence officer named Krell was decoding the captured human signal matrix. He'd been studying Terran culture for years. He understood their language, their chaos, their irony. He'd warned his superiors before. Quietly. Repeatedly. They'd laughed. Now, listening to the voice of Elias, something different struck him. The tone wasn't gloating. It was controlled. Cold. He rewound the message 3 times, isolating words, pitch shifts, subfrequencies. His screen highlighted 5 separate voice overlays, all synced. Elias hadn't been speaking live. It was pre-recorded. Fragmented across multiple bounce signals. They didn't know where he was. Krell looked to his colleague, pale and sweating beside him. "I think Earth is already here." The other technician stared. "Where?" Krell leaned closer. "Inside the Empire." That moment, an explosion rocked the lower subgrid of Cerealian Prime. Emergency lights bathed the room in red. A final feed blinked on, unauthorized. A human figure in armor stood before the wreckage of a tribute factory. A child climbed out from behind his legs. The soldier raised one gloved fist toward the camera. It wasn't a message. It was a promise. Verlin watched the screen. He didn't speak again for hours. The Empire struck back fast, because they had no idea how slow they really were. Within 3 standard hours of the orbital massacre, the Varelian High Command activated 12 combat fleets. Hundreds of cruisers, gunships, and dreadnoughts repositioned from defensive grids to intercept zones. Orders screamed across encrypted lines. Panic masked itself as protocol. Across Empire space, the drums of war pounded. Elias watched it all from a command room thousands of light years away, deep beneath the ice shell of Europa. The chamber was Spartan, steel, concrete, no windows, only screens. The glow of real-time data wrapped around him like a second skin. Earth's AIs whispered possibilities in his ear, but he listened more to his gut. Fleet movements confirmed their rushing. Came the voice of Subdirector Halen, her eyes glued to shifting galactic maps. No coordination. Just reaction. Good, Elias said. Let them scramble. A different screen lit up, Empire Fleet Delta pushing past the Nibari line. Do we engage now? Halen asked. Not yet. Elias leaned forward. Let them come closer. They're expecting us to defend. Let's be unexpected. The Black Fleet didn't hold ground. It vanished. To Varelian scanners, it was as if the Earth vessels blinked out of space. No drive signature, no warp residue. One moment they were real. The next, gone. The truth was uglier. They were inside the Empire's own blind spots. Elias had spent 20 years studying Varelian navigational protocols. Every system had its gaps, even ones built by perfectionists. Especially those. The arrogance baked into their structure made it easier. Elias had mapped entire dead zones, voids of interference, debris fields, magnetic tunnels, places the Empire never looked because they assumed no one could survive there. Humans didn't just survive. They launched from those shadows. At exactly 0200 hours Varelian Central Time, 7 ghost fleets reappeared across the Empire's outer colonies. They struck not at warships, but at the soft organs. Data towers. Fuel arrays. Propulsion forges. Not to destroy, but to disable. Cut power. Freeze communications. Blind the eye, then pluck it out. Fleet Delta never made it past the Nibari line. Half their ships drifted silently, power cores shut down by EMP dust seeded months earlier in asteroid fields. Others turned against themselves as hijacked NAV systems rerouted them into each other. When the explosions came, they didn't light up the sky. They collapsed in silence, dignified implosions engineered to minimize spectacle. Psychological warfare. Elias wanted every Varelian captain to know their deaths weren't heroic. They were operational failures. One of them lived. The transmission came through mid-cycle. The feed was broken, static cutting in and out. A captain, scorched face, blood dripping into his eyes. They were already here, they knew every move. Elias didn't broadcast the response. He just saved the clip and played it for the next target. At the Empire's War Council, Verlin threw a control rod through the wall. They're not engaging us head-on. They're bleeding us. Piece by piece. They're using our own tech against us, said High Tactician Vors. There are signs of deep protocol mimicry. Our firewalls are being guessed, overwritten, and rewritten mid-cycle. Verlin spun. That's not mimicry. That's mastery. They've been inside us longer than we knew. What if they were never outside? Silence. For the first time, Verlin didn't laugh. Down in Sector Corin, on a planet called Yelith Prime, a tribute camp the size of a city fell without a shot fired. Surveillance went dark. Security drones deactivated mid-patrol. Barricades unsealed themselves. When Varelian reinforcements arrived 2 hours later, they found nothing. Not rubble. Not corpses. Just silence. Every prisoner was gone. Every overseer found locked inside their own containment cells, naked, branded with a human symbol, a stylized flame. A message came shortly after. No voice. Just text. You taught us chains. We learned how to break them. In the command bunker, Elias watched the footage roll in. He said nothing. Halen approached. We're getting requests from non-aligned species. Dozens. They want to defect. Form alliance. Open dialogue. Tell them Earth doesn't need allies. She hesitated. But they're desperate. They've seen what we can do. That's why we wait. Desperation isn't loyalty. It's fear. Let them sit with it. She nodded slowly. Understood. Another alert pinged. A Virelian communications hub had just aired a propaganda message claiming victory over human raiders. The footage showed recycled battle simulations with edited timestamps. A transparent lie. Elias smirked. Let them lie to their own people. The truth will arrive with our boots. Hours passed. Raids escalated. Virelian supply lines fractured. Planetary governors abandoned posts, seeking safe passage out of Empire space. And then, quietly, the Empire tried something new. They sent assassins. 3 Void Walkers, cloaked in phase-shift suits, beamed directly into what they believed was Elias's war room. It wasn't. It was a decoy in orbit around Jupiter. The AIs let the assassins think they'd succeeded. Let them celebrate. Let them transmit confirmation. Elias watched their recorded cheers from Europa and poured himself a drink. The next morning, the Empire received a package. 3 helmets. Burned. Bent. No note. No need. Verlin stopped sleeping. His blood had turned acid with dread. Every system update, every whisper from his aides tasted like doom. He stood before his council and said, "We have to go scorched earth." "You mean burn the colonies?" "I mean burn everything. Let them inherit ash." "Even if we win," said a trembling voice, "we'll rule nothing." Verlin didn't blink. "Then we rule nothing." From across the galaxy, Elias watched the feed. They didn't know he had a tap inside the Council's core system now. He heard every plan, every weakness. He leaned forward. "Let's give them what they want," and ordered the next wave. The courier's ship drifted through the void like a forgotten relic, its hull scarred, antennas snapped, engines silent. No weapons. No defenses. Just a single capsule aboard, addressed to the Virelian inner throne. It was intercepted outside the Cernix gate by the Empire's blockade, dragged in by a magnetic tether, and surrounded by 6 war cruisers. Inside the capsule, 1 item. A data crystal. They scanned it for traps. Found none. Played it anyway. It began with silence. A wide shot of a barren planet, scarred with old craters and mining wounds. Then a slow zoom. Figures appeared. Human soldiers, clad in matte black armor, stepping over the ashes of an imperial relay station. No monologue. No music. Just raw, ambient sound, the wind, the crunch of boots, the faint static of human comms. One soldier planted a flag. Not Earth's. Just a symbol. A cracked crown, surrounded by flames. The message was clear. They weren't here to conquer. They were here to end the concept of empire. In the High Council Hall, Verlin smashed his throne controls. "They mock us now," he spat. "Shall I prepare another broadcast?" his aide asked. "Broadcast what? Our shame? They're cutting us apart 1 nerve at a time. Every time we speak, they already know the words." The aide hesitated. "What if we silence them permanently? Kill Rain. Decapitate the resistance." Verlin's eyes narrowed. "We tried once. This time we do it right." A new plan formed, one that required fewer fleets and more deception. They leaked false coordinates through a supposedly secure back channel. A deep space installation, positioned to look like a vulnerable data core holding strategic records. Bait. Just exposed enough. Just believable enough. Within minutes, Earth's systems intercepted it, exactly as planned. An hour later, the Virelians received confirmation. Terran strike teams had been deployed. Cloaked ships approached the sector. The trap had teeth. Phase mines cloaked in dark matter. Null-field cannons. Auto-target drones programmed to anticipate evasive human patterns. Verlin watched the field from a sealed command center, hands tight on the rail, breathing shallow. "They'll never see it coming," he murmured. He was right. The Terrans never showed. Instead, the installation exploded from within. Empire engineers screamed into comms. Internal systems were hijacked, remotely. Long before Earth's teams had arrived. Their AI had already infected the system, weeks earlier, using encoded music files downloaded by bored Imperial cadets. The trap turned in on itself. Elias didn't need to send ships. Just bad code. Verlin didn't sleep that night. He watched the playback over and over, trying to spot the moment they lost control. It never appeared. Because they'd never had it. In the morning, half of Sector 9's systems went dark. Communications collapsed. Star maps glitched. Gravity wells reversed. Traffic control vanished. Hundreds of civilian ships were caught mid-warp and torn apart by drift misalignment. That afternoon, 20 slave transport routes were rerouted, not by missiles or blockades, but by falsified orders that redirected them straight into human liberation zones. No bloodshed. No warnings. Just liberation by misdirection. Back on Europa, Elias reviewed the reports with half-lidded eyes. They've started destroying their own infrastructure, Halen said. Scorched earth. No salvage. They'd rather collapse their colonies than risk us taking them. Good. That speeds things up. They've put out a bounty on you. Am I at least expensive? 50 million sovereigns. And a personal audience with Verlin if they deliver your head. Elias smiled. Now that's flattery. New footage arrived. The Varelian Newsnet was showing a manufactured victory, a Terran fleet destroyed in Sector Varn. Rendered in full color. Glorious music. Burning hulls. But it was fake. The Empire had staged it using repainted dummies, detonated manually, filmed from controlled angles. What they didn't know was that one of their own recording drones had been compromised. Elias played the alternate angle, full context. The destroyed ships had been hollow husks. No life signs. No control systems. Just floating debris painted to look like active vessels. A show. Nothing more. They're lying to their own people, Halen said. They're lying to themselves, Elias corrected. Later that cycle, Earth's network released a message to every corner of Varelian territory. Untraceable. Undeniable. Elias stood in frame. No armor. No fanfare. Just his face. Calm. Dead center. This isn't rebellion, he said. This is removal. We're not fighting for power. We're burning a disease. You call it empire. We call it extinction with manners. The message ended with coordinates. One planet. One palace. Verlin's personal throne world. No one believed Earth would attack it. The next day, the sky above it cracked open. 6 human dreadnoughts appeared, silent as ghosts. No warning. No challenge. No transmission. Just their presence, unannounced. And with them came the countdown. Elias gave them 24 hours. Not to surrender, but to evacuate. No promises after that. The countdown reached 0. The Varelian throne world, once a symbol of imperial permanence, now floated beneath a sky filled with silent reapers. 6 human dreadnoughts held position just beyond atmospheric range. No shots fired. No warnings repeated. Just presence. Cold, absolute, and final. On the ground, panic had fractured command. Civil transports overran launch pads. Throne guards deserted their posts. Inside the citadel of the Archon, Verlin stood alone at the edge of his private balcony, watching the stars that no longer belonged to him. A voice crackled behind him. Evacuation window is closed. He didn't turn. They haven't fired. They're waiting, the aide replied, voice thin. They want you to run. Verlin breathed slow, steady, until even that felt treasonous. Order the defense satellites to engage. They were deactivated, sir. Days ago. He turned. What? The encryption was compromised. They've been broadcasting false telemetry. We didn't notice until they started aiming at our own ships. Verlin said nothing. The aide didn't speak again. They both knew this was no longer about force. This was demonstration. Humiliation refined into strategy. Above, the dreadnoughts began to shift. The first descended. No propulsion trails, no vibration, just controlled descent via gravity anchor, manipulating spacetime like a fisherman reels in a catch. Citizens watched from bunkers and tower windows as the ship's shadow swallowed the capital square. It hovered, humming softly, casting no fire, but erasing all light beneath it. Then, at last, a transmission. Elias. Standing in the command deck, calm as ever. No armor. No medals. No threats. You were given time, he said. You wasted it. Verlin activated his console. This is your last bluff, Rain. You won't fire on civilians. I won't have to. Elias nodded to someone off-screen. On the throne world, nothing happened. No explosions. No impact. Just silence. And then gravity shifted. Not a quake. Not pressure. Space itself bent. The central plaza warped inward. Buildings folded, not with destruction, but with erasure. One by one, towers collapsed into spheres, then vanished. A precise, controlled event. Matter devoured without heat, without debris. Verlin's aides screamed. He stood frozen, watching the skyline dissolve like mist under light. These aren't weapons, Elias said, voice remote. They're corrections. Surgical. You'll turn the galaxy against you. No, Elias replied. You did that. Around the planet, liberation fleets dropped into orbit. Not for conquest. For retrieval. Ships descended toward prison districts, not palaces. Human medics poured out, treating wounds caused not by battle, but by decades of obedience. Species once enslaved stepped off their knees. Broadcast captured it all unfiltered. Verlin stumbled back from the console, rage fracturing into something colder. Not fear. Recognition. He whispered. You were never a threat. You were a mirror. On the ground, his statues were the last to fall. Not bombed. Dismantled. By the hands of those who once bowed before them. Hours passed. By dusk, the citadel was emptied. Not breached. Left standing, useless, like a throne made of smoke. In the orbiting dreadnought, Elias reviewed the final transmission logs. We didn't even touch the palace, one commander noted. We didn't have to, Elias answered. Their own people took it apart. A message pinged from Earth, a transmission from dozens of newly freed worlds, requesting a congress. An alliance. Elias didn't reply right away. He stared at the throne world shrinking in the distance. Halen spoke beside him. What should we call this victory? He looked at her. Correction. She nodded. And Verlin? He's not our problem anymore. Back on the surface, the Archon sat on the broken steps of his own monument, surrounded by nothing. No guards. No throne. Just silence, and the knowledge that history had already moved on without him. Above, in the cold dark, Elias turned off the feed. He never said goodbye. He never had to.